welcome to the Urban Doctor. My name is Darren Bartlett, and of course, we'll be here to talk about the things that matter in your health. So on different days, of course, I bring different doctors so that we discuss different issues. Health is quite wide, and yeah, we try our level best to see that we answer some of your most important questions that you have to ask. But don't forget to send your WhatsApp number on 0755 75575. That's the number that is moving on your screen in case you have a question and you want our doctors to be able to respond to those, and we shall definitely respond to that. In the studio, Maria Teresa Namuiga is back to continue with the conversation on dieting for mothers, for those who want to become mothers, that is pre-pregnancy and during pregnancy. And now we're going to continue this conversation to talk about after pregnancy. That means you have given birth. Okay, so stay glued on your screen and we go on with this conversation. First, let me welcome my guest. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Darren. How are you?
Not bad. Thank you so much for coming back to make sure that we continue with this conversation, because it has been on demand. Since you left here, I couldn't handle some of the things. I said, no, it's okay. We'll have to continue this conversation, and I'll definitely go through the questions towards the end that came through about the conversation. So how have you been?
I've been okay. Thank you so much for inviting me again here, and I'm so glad to be here and share the knowledge that I can and answer the questions that I can.
That you will. You'll have to answer them, because that's what you're going to do here. Anyway, let's continue with our conversation at the other time. The last time we were here, we were talking about, the diet, how important it is to observe your diet if you intend to get pregnant and when you're pregnant. But there is also after you've given birth. First of all, does the diet change from what you've been eating now that you've given birth?
It doesn't change so much, but the major part that changes is now we believe that the mother is eating for two. In pregnancy, we do not encourage that excessive eating until the 7th, 8th, and 9th month, because that's when the baby is gaining that too much weight.
Okay.
But now when you're breastfeeding and you've given birth to a child, in the first 4 months to 6, they double their weight or even more. Get it? Like if you give birth to a child who is 3 kilograms, they will double the weight, and then they might also maybe go to more than double of the weight. So the diet changes in that perspective, that the mother has to eat enough food or slightly more than enough food so that they can feed the child, for the child to grow, for the child to gain weight.
Are there particular foods that you now have to avoid? You have to avoid, because remember the other time we were talking about avoiding alcohol, things like cigarettes and all those things, and also making sure that your plate is well balanced.
Yes.
And now there are foods that one has to avoid when now breastfeeding.
Yes, of course. We encourage mothers to avoid the caffeine. Because caffeine can be expressed through the breast milk. Because as you drink, as you eat, all those nutrients, or most of them, go through the breast milk. So if you're taking caffeine, your child will not be able to digest it, and then they'll have some, we have a lot of mothers who the kids get colic, or the babies get a lot of colic. And then it is because you're eating things that the baby's intestines cannot handle and digest yet. And not only affecting the digestion of the child, but also, the baby, but also it affects the sleep issues. You've seen babies who are just crying, they're irritable, they're not sleeping, but it's just because you consumed a lot of caffeine as a mother. So we discourage mothers to drink coffee. Then we also discourage mothers to drink alcohol up to when the child is 2 years, or when you stop breastfeeding. Because as you remember, we talked about how alcohol affects the brain growth, the general growth of a child. It reduces the weight significantly. So we encourage mothers who are breastfeeding to ensure that they're not drinking alcohol as mothers. And then the same things we discourage, like some fish that is so high in mercury, or the seafoods. Most of those fish are not good for mothers who have given birth. So majorly, those are the things that they may do away without eating.
Interesting. You've mentioned something about colic, and now this fish, but let's start with colic. What is colic?
Colic is what most people call a walker, and then it is just discomfort of the child's stomach. You see babies who are constantly crying, they are trying to show you that I'm having some stomach issues. It is just their intestines are trying to grow, but then also it is because you're eating things that the child is not able to digest yet.
Okay.
Yes.
And you mentioned fish. You said that there's a fish with
that is high in mercury, or generally fish that is high in mercury. It is not good because mercury still affects the brain growth of a child, and then also prevents the child from absorbing certain things in the breast milk.
Okay. I wouldn't have told any day. I would just eat fish the way it is. Anyway, I'm a man. Someone else would be breastfeeding that. But it's still our technology and knowledge and talk to them. So I want to understand the composition of this milk. I mean, a woman who's breastfeeding, the milk that the kid is, feeding on. What nutrients are there? And from what composition do they come from? I mean, I know from all this that we eat, but what nutrients are in there?
Breast milk has all nutrients that are necessary for the child's early age. When you're breastfeeding, we are looking at a diet or nutrition that aids the child to grow better. And then God designed the breast milk in a way that it has all nutrients that the child needs at that age. That's why we don't encourage mothers to start feeding babies when they've just come from hospital and you're trying to give mashed this, mashed that. We encourage mothers to just exclusively breastfeed for at least 6 months. So in those 6 months, whatever the baby needs, all the nutrients, the calcium, the selenium, the iron, the folate, the zinc, every little vitamins, vitamin A, B, all vitamins and all nutrients that the baby requires in that early stage are expressed through the breast milk.
So what happens if...
When you eat, you digest. As you're digesting, you absorb, and then also the breast milk is formed from the nutrients you have in your blood.
So what happens if the mother is unable to breastfeed a kid?
Oh yes, when a mother is unable to breastfeed, we would recommend to use at least formula, the formulated milk for babies. We have different brands on the market, but you just look for a brand that is recommended, that has been studied, and that has been shown that it has all nutrients that your child will need. And then for formula-fed babies, usually they put quantities of required things. Like let me say for zinc, they will make sure that that formula is fortified. They call it fortification of food. That you make sure that if this is powdered milk, I'll add in the iron, I'll add in the zinc. So they will add every little thing that the child needs in that formula milk. So when a mother is unable to breastfeed for different reasons, then we would recommend to at least use formula for babies.
Maria, I've seen with my eyes parents who have not been able to be there for the kids till the age of 6 months in terms of breastfeeding, and are unable to
breastfeed, express.
And also, yes, they can't express, but also they can't afford
the formula.
Are there alternatives in that position? I mean, I'm just speaking for women who can't afford
the formula. Yes, formula is so expensive. You realize that you might have to, I think formula is around the smaller tin is around maybe 65, 80,000, 120. And then you realize that one tin is just enough for a week or even less than a week, depending on how frequent the child is eating. And then some mothers, unfortunately, can't afford. So in that scenario, I would recommend that mothers look for breast milk. There are other mothers. There is also a breast bank in Zambia. A breast bank, breast milk bank.
Okay.
Where mothers who have excess breast milk can donate, can pump and give to other mothers. Of course, they make sure that the mothers are tested for things like hepatitis, for HIV. And then there is also a mother who has that initiative. I don't remember her name, but I've ever seen her on a certain show. And for her, she lost her child because she wasn't able to, get the milk. The body was so stressed, she wouldn't get the milk. But then they did not give her the option of getting milk from other mothers. But the baby was a preterm and wouldn't even go with the milk, or the option of cow's milk or goat's milk. That really comes to a later stage when you don't have anyone to breastfeed your child for. Long ago, even now in some few societies, parents, like for example, a woman who has breastfed before, as long as you initiate, you can again breastfeed, yes.
Like the milk can be formulated.
Still come, yes. So when you have aunties, when you have sisters who can breastfeed your child for you, that's option number one. If you can find breast milk bank, you can get breast milk from them. Because I also have friends who donated. And then also when I was breastfeeding, I used to have excess that I would keep. But then also at one moment, my freezer got a problem. I was willing to donate. So there are mothers who have excess breast milk. They are pumping enough for their child, but then they're also having excess. So you can get from such mothers. But if the worst comes to worst case scenario, you don't have anyone to breastfeed your child, you can't have access to breast milk banks, you can use we recommend at least goat's milk. You start with that, dilute it a bit. And then when the worst comes to the worst, cow's milk, though we don't recommend it because it has a substance we call, I've forgotten it, but when I remember, I'm going to let you know. But there is a substance that is in in cow's milk, that our babies cannot digest. It is called, I've forgotten it, but it is there and it is not digested easily for babies. So that's why we do not recommend it.
So the goat's milk
is much better.
Is
a safer alternative, but you dilute it a bit. You dilute. You of course ask your practitioner how you balance the two, and then those are the last options.
Okay.
Our first option is we look for any immediate family member who can breastfeed, express for you, or initiate again breastfeeding, so that they are able to get your child the milk they need.
What is the danger? You talked about preterm. It's a preterm. First, before I get to the danger, but what is a preterm?
This is a child that is born before their actual date of delivery.
Okay.
For example, want to give birth.
Those that we call premature.
Yes, babies. Those are just born before 36 weeks of gestation. So we have those at 27 weeks who are very early preterms. We have at 30. So each week or each stage, it determines the outcome of the child's earlyhood health. For example, if the child is so preterm, let me say at 27 weeks, they be in NICU's, neonatal intensive care units, for a long time, and then they can't breastfeed because they've not developed that, they don't have the suckling capability yet. But then also they do not have, we have some, like if you come to a hospital and then realize you're having preterm labor, you're given some injections to ensure that the lungs of the baby develop well. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's important when you experience early labor, run to a hospital. But in unfortunate cases, we also have kids who are born from home but prematurely, and then they're brought to hospitals. Premature birth usually comes with challenges of immunity, that kids get sick so much, and then of course the low birth weight affects them so much. And so when a mother gives birth preterm, the breast milk is not usually there. Even when they try to initiate by pumping, it usually takes longer to come. So those are the mothers who might formula feed, who might look for, but most actually for the preterms, we even don't recommend the formula milk. We strongly recommend and look for the breast milk.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Quick forward back to what is eaten, and I wanted to understand what is then the danger, because I know these parents who are watching here sometimes have had challenges where they've left the kids with the maids. Probably they have pumped milk into bottles, hoping that the kids will be given that milk while they're away. But there's an experiment that has been done probably by dads and maids who decide to give kids some food. What is the danger of giving them food? I mean,
before at least
before 6 months.
Before 6 months. At 4 months, some kids can start, early weaning. We have what we call early weaning for children. But then at 1 month, we strongly discourage that because the children's intestines have not yet fully matured to digest the food. They have indigestion, and what happens is when you give them that food, they'll not be able to absorb the nutrients in it. And because they need a lot of vitamins, a lot of minerals, a lot of proteins that can only be given through breast milk, you will find that baby is not eating adequate food to support what they need.
Okay.
Because at least we are blessed that God has designed it in a way that all the DHA, all the selenium, all the zinc, all the folic, all the vitamins that the child needs will easily come through the breast milk, and they will easily digest and absorb it. But when you give physical food, let me say they're not using the milk you left home, and then they're giving maybe soup for Irish, soup for different things, the baby will not be getting not only enough nutrients, which will lead to retarded growth and general slower weight gain for children, but then also they will be having stomach issues. Those are the kids that have a lot of diarrhea. They are having, because the breast milk also helps the lining of the intestine of the child to form the normal bacteria that is needed. So they will not only not be able to digest that food, but they'll also be susceptible to illnesses. Those are the kids that usually get sick more oftenly. And then also research has shown that mothers who have not exclusively breastfed for 6 months, those are the mothers who experience, who have their children getting sick more oftenly. We see between, let me say, 9 months to up to 3 years, whereby they are constantly in hospitals, but it is just because the mothers did not breastfeed enough. Because breast milk is so important to build the immunity of the child.
Okay.
And one of the top researchers for children and maternal health said that whatever you eat, and what we believe in is whatever you eat, not only before, during, and after pregnancy, not only affects you, because most times mothers look at themselves, oh, I have to lose the mommy weight, I have to do this, but then it affects the long-term health of a child. If you want a child with a stronger immunity, try so much for them to get the nutrition they deserve through the breastfeeding exclusively.
Let me pull out a question here. There was a question by Amina in Kawempe, and this is what you said. You said, I gave birth to my kid 2 weeks ago, and she rejected breast milk and formula. What can I do?
The rejection of the breast milk usually comes in, I'm not sure if she was a C-section mother or a mother who gave birth normally.
The conditions change?
Yes,
okay.
Usually.
Let's start with the one for
Caesar.
Yeah.
Yes, the C-section mothers usually may not have the breast immediately because, the breast milk immediately. When you give birth normally or naturally, through the contractions and all that process prepares the body for breastfeeding.
Okay.
Yes, during pregnancy, the body is preparing. But when you go through the natural birth, your body easily brings out the breast milk. But for mothers who have been through C-sections, you don't get the contractions, you don't push the baby. So literally a baby at a given time is just, got out. Mm-hmm. So the body in those last hours towards delivery does not prepare for breastfeeding. And then the breastfeeding will take a bit longer. And then the problem is, I'm sorry because I'm a medical person, the problem is sometimes we are affiliated to some brands and then they are pushing you to push their formula. Mm-hmm. So what happens is we usually introduce the formula. Before even the child takes the colostrum, we have that first breast milk that comes out. So the problem comes in that a mother gives birth even before trying to give birth, to try the baby to suckle the milk by themselves, they will be given formula. And formula has different kinds of tastes. Mm-hmm. Some of them have that strong fish taste. It's okay, not a fish taste, but that too bad fish smell. So because of that, the child will reject the formula because of that reason.
Okay.
So what we recommend is try another formula brand, but then also, because I personally am a C-section mother, when I gave birth, I strictly told the doctors, do not even think of giving my child formula. Because the next thing will be, because the mother is C-section, she will take long to get the breast milk, bring a formula so that we mix for the baby. It was so hard for my son, and he suckled like for 3 hours, that's the truth. 3 hours, he was yearning, because naturally they will yearn to get that breast milk out. Because usually also during pregnancy, we have to prepare the nipples for easier breastfeeding. They be blocked. So sometimes you put the child on the breast, you feel that the breasts are engorged, they are full, you feel there is breast milk. But because we did not prepare them during pregnancy, because there are some ducts that close that nipple.
Oh, okay, like Okay, like there's I don't know, I was going to call it a hole, but
yes, okay, there are tiny holes on the nipple, but usually they are covered before you give birth. So it is just important towards giving birth, you pluck them slowly so that you easily bring out that breast milk. So the baby has to use a lot of pressure to get them off. But you give them a chance up to 6 hours. Babies rarely die of hypoglycemia. It is only in those that are excessively fat. You remember how we said it also in the previous episode. So for babies that are excessively fat, maybe we can worry. Those, babies who are bone heavy, we can worry that, they might not be able to get the sugars they need immediately, and it will lead them to hypoglycemia, which leads to death in some new babies. But as long as the baby is of normal weight and you're willing to try, because it's both frustrating and tiring for the mother and the child, but I would recommend, even when you are a C-section mother, be patient. Even if it's 1 hour, even if it's 2 hours, even if it's 3 hours, as long as it's not past 6 hours, you can let the baby suckle. With time, that milk will come. The colostrum, it's a very, very good, it's the first milk that should go into the child's stomach. It has a lot of nutrients, though for it, it's watery. That almost colorless milk, it's what comes out first. It's very nutritious for the babies, and it also helps them in not only getting good bacteria in their gut, but also giving them immunity in the long run. So that mother who is not having breast milk, the baby has rejected the formula and even breast milk. And why babies also reject the breast milk is when you're not patient, they are not patient. You put them for 10 minutes, no milk is coming, and you take them off. They usually associate the breast with not giving them what they want. You know why some babies adopt the bottle easily? The moment you put it, they'll suck and the milk is coming. But the breast is not prepared well. The baby is trying to suckle, 10 minutes, nothing has come. And we've usually seen it, even research shows that when you start with a bottle, it's more likely that that child will deny the breast milk, because the breast needs time. The breast milk needs time to flow. The flow, because it is between your brain and your breast. So when the baby is suckling, your brain will know, oh, it's time for us to let the milk let down. We call it milk let down. So the brain will naturally talk to the breast, and then the breast will give you the milk. But if you give a bottle and then you're trying to initiate the baby also on breast milk, usually it doesn't work, because they will not wait. They are hungry. They are crying. You're trying to put them on a breast that is not yet giving them those adequate amounts like the bottle. But then she can try other formula, or then she can also come to consultants, like she can visit our clinic or different nutrition clinics for her to be guided. It might be the positioning, because it's also very important, the way you position the baby onto the breast. And then there's also what we call latching, how the baby attaches to the breast. Those factors all play a lot in how the baby will adapt to the breastfeeding process.
Okay, let me paint a picture here in my head. Assuming there is, and I know there are actually mothers out there who have naturally had low milk. Is it connected to what they eat?
Of course.
So how do they improve that so that they have?
Yes, at least I've done for some time that. I used to help many mothers to increase their breast milk as well, because it's not only the challenges that come with breastfeeding, but what frustrates most mothers is the quantities. Yeah. And then the babies stay crying even after feeding. The mother feels that the breast is empty, but the baby is also still crying. They're not having enough, breast milk. So what that mother can do is increase the number of fluids. And then breastfeeding is just a demand process. When you demand, it just complies with demand and supply. If the demand is high, the breast milk will be high. If the demand is low, the supply will be low. That's why we recommend mothers to at least feed every 2 hourly, because when you feed every 2 hourly, you're triggering your brain into a process of consistently giving you milk, so that every 2 hours you have breast milk. Before that, when you're starting, it will not be like that if you're having already low quantities of milk. But as a mother, you have to understand that it is just about the demand. Even when your child is sleeping, we'll just recommend you put yourself on a breast pump. If you can't afford breast pumps, because I've worked in many government hospitals and mothers don't have those pumps, we just get them to express the milk naturally. You see how we express milk from cattle? That's the same way a mother would express the milk for the child. So every time your child is sleeping, try to ensure that you keep expressing. You can use a warm towel every time before you breastfeed. You get a warm towel, put on your breasts, it easily lets the milk come out. Then increase the amounts of protein, like from your fish, from your meat, from your chicken. Eat a lot of foods that have a lot of soup. If your child is tolerant to the beans, why usually we delay introduction of beans and nuts in postpartum mothers is because of the allergies, and then secondly, the colic. Because most people, even adults, when they eat the beans, they get that bloating, the gas and etc. So when you want to eat such foods, sweet potato, you want to eat some beans, you have to look at how your child has been responding when you eat certain things. Then also mushroom is also very good. Increase a lot of soups. Hydration is key. Drink up to like 5 liters a day. It will also help your milk to increase in quantities. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Maria. And I know we've come to the end of this show, but I'll give you 1 minute for your closing remarks on the topic.
My closing remarks is that we should understand that after pregnancy, the nutrition is much more important to the child. So ensure that you're eating what is right for your child. Ask your practitioners, your nurses, your midwives, your doctors, what should I eat? So that you make sure you're eating enough things for the babies to develop teeth, to develop better bone structure, to have good sight. All those things matter in what you're eating. So what I would recommend to mothers is, as long as we are trying to lose the postpartum weight, let us try so much to make sure that the newborns are getting enough, and then for us we can be secondary to that.
Right. Thank you so much, Maria. That has been Maria talking to mothers who have just given birth, and even those who are planned to give birth. I think that information is very key for you. You need it, and so that you have a healthy baby ahead of you. Thank you so much for watching The Urban Doctor. Your feedback has been received, and we'll definitely go through that information. My name is Darren Bartlett. I'll see you next time.